In 2021, the World Economic Forum's reckoning is that we are 130.6 years away from parity. The pandemic actually set us back by a generation. So that's more than a century away. It means you won't see parity in your generation. Your grandchildren may not see parity in their generation. This is how far away we are from equality. The pandemic certainly set things back. Everyone was affected, but not everyone experienced it equally. Women definitely bore the brunt of it, from lockdowns to quarantines to job layoffs to increased time at work. All of these things seem to bear much more heavily on women, as some of the early studies are showing. So what can we do about it? The big thing that we want to think about is that what we're working for is an equality in which we're not always being asked to make the changes. That we're looking at it in terms of what can we do to our systems to enable change. I want you to look around and see the world and think about what is it in our societies and in our economies that hold women back. Instead of asking what is wrong with women, that they cannot succeed in a world today equally with men, let's ask what's happening to them to hold them back. We keep telling women to lean in, to be more confident, to stay in the workforce, to take risks, but we don't see that our current system was never built with women in mind. Women who succeed today are extraordinary. They are working twice as hard. They are navigating unspoken rules and boundaries constantly, and they are fighting an uphill battle. The next generation is watching this with alarm. For us to create a real generational shift, we need to stop fixing women and start fixing systems instead. It is our systems that are the problem, not our women and girls. We are at the starting point of a new economic system. This is the knowledge economy. And it's crucial that we are part of shaping this new economy and not just its consumers. We missed out on shaping the Industrial Revolution because of the laws that kept women as property, denied women an education, and refused us the right to vote. And even then, some extraordinary women managed to rise to the top. Now that we have the opportunity to shape the framework of the future, we must not squander it or allow ourselves to be excluded from it. There is nothing about technology that precludes women from it. A woman, Ada Lovelace, is acknowledged as one of the early pioneers in computing. The first coders were women code breakers in the Second World War. Alan Turing is always credited for breaking the Enigma code that won the war for the Allies, but it really was all the dozens of women who worked behind the scenes on coding thousands of cards. We're not intrinsically bad at technology. There are just not enough women there to pave the way forward. But on the positive side, we have for the first time a critical mass of women in leadership, and at all levels and in almost every industry and profession. So what do we do next? How do we ensure that the world that's being created includes all its people? The most important starting point is that we need to stop talking about women as if we were a minority. We are not. We are exactly half the population, but we earn about half of what men earn globally. And our ideas fare much worse. They are only acknowledged a fraction of the time. Take the Nobel Prize, for instance. Did you know only 6% of the prize has been awarded to women? 6%. That's 59 out of 975 prizes over a 120-year period. And 2 of those prizes were won by Marie Curie, a woman. When asked to picture a genius, we almost always picture Albert Einstein, but it's Marie Curie that we really should picture. She is the only person, the only one, male or female, to have won the prize in 2 different natural sciences, ever. She won for physics in the second year of the Nobel founding in 1903, and her second one was in 1911 in chemistry. What is really extraordinary is that she won this at a time when most girls were still not being allowed in education, and certainly not any in the sciences. Women pioneers, but even with her but even with her two Nobel Prizes, I wanted to make this point that even with her two Nobel Prizes, the French Academy of Sciences would not admit her. This was the background against which she won two Nobel Prizes. Excluded, but extraordinary. I love the story of Marie Curie so much because she challenges the assumption that our world as we have it today is built entirely by men, with women as supporting actors. In spite of being cast constantly in secondary roles, women have made extraordinary contributions to almost every aspect of life. We don't know their names, and that's really a deficit of our education. The wonderful thing about living today is that we don't have to accept this version of the world. We really don't. We get to find out and celebrate these women. So for instance, did you know just last year, we had a huge breakthrough. Two women won the Nobel Prize in chemistry. They had worked out how to cut up our DNA, essentially, how to edit DNA, to Photoshop it. And it was the first time that a science prize was shared by two women without a male contributor. You should know their names. I'm going to read them. Emanuela Charpentier and Jennifer Doudna. We really need to say their names. And you already know Kamala Harris is the first female vice president in the United States. But did you also know that the European Union has two women in its most powerful positions today? Ursula von der Leyen is the president of the European Commission, and Christine Lagarde is president of the European Central Bank. Both of them in their positions because Angela Merkel, as Chancellor of Germany, championed them. This is the importance of creating a critical matrix of women in leadership to create change. This is how we can thrive, by supporting each other. All of this does not mean that we as women and girls don't need to make changes. We do. We can absolutely do more to help ourselves and each other. Earlier this year, I was part of the Inspiring Girls International This Little Girl Is Me campaign in the run-up to the International Day of the Girl on the 11th of October. Perhaps this is the first time some of you have heard of the International Day of the Girl. It was adopted by the UN 10 years ago, and it's observed on the 11th of October every year. It's part of the UN's global efforts towards their Sustainable Development Goals. Goal number 5 is gender equality. It recognizes the rights of girls and the unique challenges that girls face in the world. From education to cultural practices like child marriages, there are many factors that hold girls back from fulfilling their full potential. This year, the This Little Girl Is Me campaign prompted thousands and thousands of women from around the world to share their stories of growth, of trauma, of resilience, and of joy. Check out the hashtag This Little Girl Is Me on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook, and you will find stories from women from all over the world. There were some from famous women like Sheryl Sandberg and Melinda Gates, and even former Australian Prime Minister Julia Gillard. And there were regular women like me. In these stories, we hope that we have impacted many girls to see their world as full of possibilities that they may not have imagined for themselves. Research from InTribe in 2019 showed that 70% of girls feel differently about their futures after hearing from female role models. I first heard about inspiring girls while I was serving as vice president at the Singapore Council for Women's Organizations in Singapore. I met the founder of Inspiring Girls International in London 3.5 years ago. And Miriam Gonzalez Durantes trusted me to become the founding chair of Inspiring Girls in Singapore. It's the first in Asia to have the Inspiring Girls program. Inspiring Girls brings the power of role models to girls around the world. As the saying goes, if she can see it, she can be it. The stories that were told with the hashtag This Little Girl Is Me were also important because girls learned that with each story, that it was not just one story for women. In her TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story, Chimamanda Adichie, the Nigerian feminist author, described the importance of having many stories told about us. With only a single story told about women, it leads to assumptions and stereotypes, and these are almost always incomplete. Women are half the planet. There are complex forces holding us back. You know, we are the source of all human life. And logically, that should have at least equalized us in the power stakes. Instead, the fact that we make all the people on the planet, is used to hold us down with systems that are designed only with men and the male experience in mind. Our work life is built around the life cycle of a man. If it considered women, it would take into account that women almost everywhere live nearly a decade more than men. But we need to take nearly a decade out in the middle to raise families. Yet in most places, men and women have the same retirement age. This means women will almost never catch up when they take family sabbaticals, and they are not given the opportunity to catch up later in life when they can. The work life we had pre-pandemic assumed someone was at home to manage daily life and families, or that women would work a double shift, one at work and then again another one at home. The move to flexible work has helped some women, but placed an even heavier burden on others. The truth is, companies and countries barely ever consider the needs of women in their planning. But why are we surprised by that? Drugs are still usually only tested on men. Car safety belts are tested on men and can often cause injuries to women. Even our cities and public transport systems are built with the male experience in mind. I highly recommend Caroline Perez's book, Invisible Women, Exposing Data Bias in a World Designed for Men, if you'd like to know more about this. Women are not the same, and women are not perfect. We do, however, deserve to be seen in all our complexity. We do not all think alike, and we should not be expected to. We are good, we are bad, we are bright, we are dull, we are hardworking, we are lazy, we are strong, we are fragile. We cannot be expected to think the same way or to hold the same political or economic views with the many stories that are told through the This Little Girl With Me campaign. I hope that women are freed from the constraints of the good girl narrative that holds so many of us back. We are freed to be imperfect. I hope that you leave here seeing that equality is not charity. Equality is not a charitable pursuit, but it is an economic one. There is opportunity and growth that comes with increasing the economic and political participation of women and girls. This potential is being squandered. It's like our planet has a superpower that it simply doesn't use. McKinsey once estimated that the potential being squandered by not engaging women fully in our economies is $28 trillion US. Imagine adding 28 trillion to global GDP by just allowing women to participate to their full potential in our economies. This is not just good for women and girls. Women currently do about 70% of the care work in the world. Many men would also like to participate in their family lives, and given the cultural and societal freedom to do so, would choose different careers and different social paths. Our unequal world stifles both men and women. It stunts the emotional range for men, and it cripples the economic potential for women. It isn't just women who need work-life balance. All of us do. Before I finish, I'd like to share 2 personal reflections with every girl and woman watching. It isn't, and the first one, let me start with this. The first one is to make choices, not sacrifices in your life. I have 5 children and stepchildren, and I'm going to say that I've made no sacrifices for them. What I make every single day are choices. I deeply dislike Mother's Day cards for this reason. Almost universally, they focus on the selfless sacrifice of mothers. I prefer to think of mothers as superheroes, in charge of their lives, not martyrs flowing helplessly in the currents of life. By making them choices, you can powerfully claim the results of your own life. When and if you decide to go to university, when and if you decide to get married, stay single, have children, not have children, stay at home, go to work, have a career, start a business. Make choices, not sacrifices. Your first responsibility in life is to live your best life to its fullest potential. It is only then that you can truly serve your family, your community, your country, your company, and the world. The second reflection that I have is to exercise great care and discretion when you choose a life partner. For women, more than for men, this is a life-changing decision. There are studies from Carnegie Mellon and Harvard that show that this is the single most important decision women make in their lives. And you've probably seen it in your own world. Don't be easily flattered or swayed. This is the biggest job interview you will ever conduct in your life. It will decide whether you have a cheerleader for life or a tormentor for life. Your job is to live the best version of your life, of this life. It is how you can serve yourself and the world. Communities, companies, countries thrive when women thrive. So let's stop trying to fix women and start fixing our systems instead. Thank you so much for coming.